We do want to note that we are recording while Monday Night Football is happening between the Bills and the Bengals, and Damar Hamlin collapsed on the field maybe about 40 minutes ago at this point, and so we're still waiting on word. We hope he's okay. We know that an AED and CPR was administered for several minutes, close to 10 minutes on the field, and he was taken off in an ambulance. So we send all our best thoughts and prayers and everything that we can muster to him and his family and his teammates and the opponents too, because that's an awful thing to watch. We're not going to show the tweet or anything, but you can find it if you need to. And you can see him just collapse out of nowhere. And it is heartbreaking to watch. So I guess we're going to keep apprised of that situation, and Tyler is paying attention. And if there's any breaking news on that, we will cut off and let him share that. All right, so we're going to take a quick moment of silence for Damar Hamlin, and then we'll jump right into the episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the SVT Sports Podcast. I am here with Sam, Tyler, and we have Tim on the ones and twos. We are going to dive into some NFL. We're going to talk a little bit more Warriors, and we got some hockey updates. We have some hot stove as well for baseball. All right, so let's dive into some scores. Vince, you want to take care of the scores? Sure, Vince, let's do it. Dallas on Thursday beat Tennessee 27-13. Sunday, we had New England over Miami 23-21. Detroit beat Chicago 41-10, keeping their playoff hopes alive. Tampa Bay clinched the NFC South with the win over Carolina 30-24. Cleveland eliminated Washington 24-10. New Orleans and Philly had a game. We'll talk about that in a second. Jacksonville over Houston 31-3. Kansas City beat Denver 27-24. The New York Giants punched their ticket to the playoffs 38-10 over Indianapolis. Arizona falls to the Atlanta Falcons. We had a little bit of a bird match, 20-19. Seattle over the New York Jets 23-6. The Jets are now in a lot of trouble for making the playoffs. Chargers beat the Rams 31-10 in the Battle of Los Angeles. Green Bay over Minnesota, 41-17. They're right back in the playoff hunt. And Pittsburgh, keeping their playoff hopes alive, beat Baltimore 16-13. So we did have our games. Yeah, go ahead.
Before you hammer into me here, because I know you're going to here, I do want to point out that Washington and Ron Rivera, he had no idea that his team could be eliminated if they were to lose that day, because it all depended on if the Packers won, which obviously the Packers whoop that ass against Minnesota. But how do you as a head coach not know what is needed in order for you to still survive in the playoffs? I don't understand that.
Yeah. He just wasn't paying attention. Just a lot of sloppiness in Washington. That entire organization from top to bottom is a sloppy organization, poorly run. And it doesn't surprise me that glaring oversight. That's what happens when you fuck around and start Carson Wentz and you just found out, this is a year of fuck around and find out 2022. And it's continuing into 2023, apparently. So now that that's out of the way, New Orleans beat Philadelphia 20-10. Gardner Minshew couldn't get the job done. I know that Cowboys fans are being extra loud about this. Tyler, what you got, buddy? I saw you had a full page of notes. Let's break into them.
Yeah, okay. First and foremost, I mean, congratulations to New Orleans. They need to win to have their playoff chances, still alive. And they played like a team that was desperate to still keep that hope and that dream alive. So I'll give the shout out to them. It was a great win for them. I would say Gardner Minshew, I've seen enough. I think he had a great win last year when, we needed him out of the blue, but to the end of last year, to the 2 games this year, I've seen enough. I'm over it. I know Jalen Hurts was almost ready to go for this game. and it was a game time decision. They said he's out. So now, we're looking at next week that I fully believe with everything on the line, a number one seed here, a bye, that Jalen Hurts is going to come back here. Lane Johnson being hurt is probably the most difficult thing because he's one of the best, O linemen that we have out there. So I think that killed me. But Gardner Minshew doing 18 for 32, 274 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception that ended up becoming a pick 6 thanks to Marcus Lattimore, 6 sacks and 2 fumbles. That's just, you're not going to win. You're basically as good as Carson Wentz out there, in my opinion. So I'd say our run defense stepped up again. That looks great. I started looking at the stats here and I started looking at what the Red Rocket was doing, and he wasn't any better either. I'm going to be totally honest with you. Taysom Hill was a better quarterback at 116% passer rating with 1 touchdown, where Minshew and the Red Rocket were below 90 both, which is abysmal. It's terrible, especially in the metrics of how they measure that. So
I love that we're calling Andy Dalton the Red Rocket.
That's all he is. I'm not going to call him by his real name. He doesn't deserve it. Devontae Smith had his 3rd game in a row of 100 yards. We had a great 61-yard touchdown by A.J. Brown. There was all the reasons for us to win that game. Why we lost was the 2 fumbles and the interception for the pick 6. Our defense basically was on the field 3 times more than the Saints defense was. And it's not a recipe for winning football. So I'm looking at right now, some of the stats, because I hear some Dallas Cowboy fans are coming down my way. Let's just throw it out there. You want the smoke. Let's give you the fire. All right. Eagles are 8th in the passing offense. Dallas is 14th. Eagles are 5th in rush offense. Dallas is 7th. Eagles are 1st in pass defense. Dallas is 10th. Eagles are 1st in sacks. Dallas is 3rd. Eagles are 16th in rush defense. Dallas is 18th. So before the Dallas fans come down my road and say that they're this and that and that and this, just know that we do see in the playoffs, it's over, baby. Like Jalen Hurts is going to make sure that you don't see a sniff of the second round. That's it. It's over. Gone. And you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm okay with these 2 L's that we took this week, knowing that Jalen Hurts is coming back. We're going to get that first round bye. I know the 49ers won it. I know the Vikings won it. I know what's the other team here that's sniffing at it here that wants it as well. It's not happening. You can't have it. It's ours. I'll see you guys in the playoffs.
We shall see. That is correct. We will see you in the playoffs. And with that, I think we need to move to the game of the week, at least for us on this podcast. The Niners and the Las Vegas Raiders, they met up on New Year's Day and they took it to overtimes, 37-34. The Niners get the win. I'm in a good mood about that. Sam, Jarret Stidham, he showed up in a way that nobody expected. Let's start there, I guess. The whole Derek Carr situation and how we got to Stidham.
There's absolutely so much to unbox with the Derek Carr and Raider situation. One, I have not always been the biggest fan of Derek Carr, but I do respect him. And earlier this year when he had his emotional breakdown, we talked about it quite a bit. And for the past 9 years, he's been the only thing that's been respectable about this franchise on and off the field. And I do feel that I'm going to stand up for Derek Carr in this respect, that he has given everything to this franchise over the past 9 years. He's been the only thing that's been respectable to watch consistently over those 9 years. And for a generation of fans, he's been the only bright spot in an otherwise terrible run franchise from Oakland to now Las Vegas. So I do feel that the ownership, the coaching staff, the front office is being really disrespectful to Derek Carr. I do take that side. I'm also on the side of Coach Cowher was upset when they decided to move off of Carr and go with Stidham, because mathematically they still have a chance. And as a coach, he was saying, if you have a chance, no matter how slim, you go for it. Multiple players, Hall of Fame players, have tweeted out, said on their podcast, radio shows, that this is a loser mentality to wave the white flag when you have a mathematical chance to bench your star player. It's just a loser mentality. And I agree. I 100% agree. Now, Stidham showed up and he played well. And honestly, I kind of expected him to play well in the sense of knowing where to go with the ball, knowing check downs. And he knows this offense. So, the question would be talent would be that he can execute it at a high level. And he looked pretty good, in execution, as he should have. However, again, to defend Derek Carr, the play calling was totally different under Stidham than it was for Derek Carr. There are clearly different run blocking schemes that they ran. It was how play action. Stidham was, I want to say, was 60-70% of his throws were play action pass, where Derek Carr is the least amount of quarter. He play action passes the least out of offenses, quarterbacks. And that's something that's coming from coaching. That's the play calling. That's not Derek Carr just making up a play action. That's part of the play. So the whole offensive scheme was totally different, how they called the game. And that's been, if you were on, Raiders Reddit or Twitter, that is everything that's being spoken about right now. That is just, as we were watching the game, letting this unfold, it was watching two different offenses. In basics, pass blocking, run blocking, offensive schemes was totally different. The injury of Darren Waller, obviously having Darren Waller back is a huge plus. He's an amazing talent. Raider fans for many, many weeks were asking, why is he being held out? Because 2 weeks he was actually healthy and he was telling reporters he was ready to come back, and Josh McDaniels sat him out. So to me, it just really feels like it just really feels like a loser mentality, that Josh McDaniels didn't really want to work with Derek Carr and is blowing this thing up. And we've been talking about it for weeks as fans, is the team is just, it looked self-sabotage. Like there was just play calling that was just terrible. And
look, can I ask you this?
No,
and you're welcome to die on the hill, stand on it, or walk down it if you like. Are you gonna go out on a limb and say that McDaniel's play calling was there for Carr to never succeed, and then when he got his guy in there, the play calling changed for his 100% guy to succeed?
That's exactly what I'm saying. He was Derek Carr. The play calling is totally different. I mean, completely different. On 3rd and 4 to win a game that's going to possibly keep you in the playoff race a few weeks ago against the Steelers, you run a draw play on 3rd and 4. You run a draw play. Like who does that? And it's just, there's so many plays throughout the season that are head scratchers, and I'm not to say that Derek Carr goes without blame. It's just head scratchers. And again, somehow it's not even like the Raiders don't even discuss that their defense sucks. This is the 5th game they blew a double-digit lead. The 5th game this season.
Yeah.
So to say that it's all Derek Carr, it's the quarterback, and you need to play better. It's the defense. I'm going to interrupt myself because it looks like
I was just
Monday Night Football. So let's get this update in.
Yeah, I was just going to break in. Again, the game hasn't been officially canceled or forfeited or suspended completely. We don't have updates on that, but what we can see is that it looks like both coaches have been on the cell phone together. It was Doug McDermott's cell phone, took a phone call. and then handed it to the Bills head coach, and then they hugged each other out. I'm sorry, Bengals head coach, and then they hugged each other out. Now it looks like the Bills crew and staff are packing up the bags over their communication devices, and looks like they're probably going to load it into the truck. And this game looks like it's probably heading to being called or maybe suspended for another day. So we'll have to see what NFL says regarding that situation. But all signs point to this game ending currently at 3-7.
Rod Brooks actually just jumped in a couple minutes ago and said that his mother is there too in the stands. So
oh, wow.
His mom was there watching this happen. And if you're watching somebody get CPR done on them, you're for 9 minutes, especially, you're basically watching your friend's ribs get broken right in front of your eyes, because would you rather have a dead friend or a friend who's alive with broken ribs, you know? So I've been reading some
tweets as we've been recording and keeping up, and it's a traumatizing event to see somebody who's your teammate in the same career. I saw a tweet something to the effect of like, you know, these guys should be at home with their families and together, and you know, so we'll continue to have updates as this plays out through the podcast. You know, I got a lot more. We'll circle back to the Raiders. We'll talk about the game. And I do have something, because this Derek Carr stuff is huge. But what I am proud about is offensively, you know, Stidham did look good. Jacobs looked good. Devontae Adams looked good. Waller looked good. Renfro looked good. You know, so me being upset about the Derek Carr situation, and I think most fans on this side of the aisle that are defending and standing up for Carr, we're not upset with Stidham. It's not his fault that he worked with Josh McDaniels in the past. It's not his fault that the franchise and ownership is benching Derek Carr and there's possibly this nasty breakup. That's not his fault. As fans, we're rooting for Stidham. And next season, if Stidham's the starter, we're going to root for him. You know, because if he's successful, the Raiders are successful, and that's what we're hoping for. So no shade being thrown at any of the players in that respect. So I'm happy for him that he got his opportunity to flash. Maybe he has a good next week. See what happens next year. Maybe he comes back to the Raiders as a starter or competing, or maybe he gets a job somewhere else in the league, you know. So good for him. I'm proud that the Raiders fought a tough 49er team who came in battling for position. So it was a great game. The 49ers should have won the game, and they probably should have won it in bigger fashion. So
absolutely,
in that regard, I am happy that the Raiders hung around, but Jesus Christ, get a stop, do something.
There's no such thing as moral victories until you stumble upon a moral victory.
Before Vince gives his take onto it, I do want to jump back to something you said last week, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on it, Sam, and what you think. Your thought process about Brock Purdy is that he hasn't had to show a winner's mentality. It's just kind of been given to him week in, week out since he's taken over the starting position. Does this game fulfill that need that you were looking for, or do you need a bigger sample size than that?
I mean, yeah, it was great to see Brock Purdy in that situation and overcome some adversity for sure. And this is not to take away anything from him. He looked great. I mean, when I saw him in the preseason, I mean, anybody, you know, all the back end roster guys look good because they're all playing against other back end roster guys. So seeing him, you know, Brock Purdy play this well has been amazing. The adversity, he looked great. And I don't mean this as a knock, but let's be real. It was the Raiders defense. This is the 5th time they blew a double-digit lead. So it's NFL starters. He got picked off. You know, he had to come back. They were down 2 scores. So he had to control the offense. He had to, you know, get things into tighter windows. So he had to make the throws. He had to make the reads. So hell yeah, credit to him. He looks amazing.
Also, he got there was a couple of plays where the ball was, you know, basically in the air up for grabs. And like Brandon Ayuk came down with that big one, that big catch that was like floating in the air because he got hit as he threw it. So a little bit of luck bounced his way too. And you're going to need that in the playoffs as well. It's not all just good things happening like because you're playing good. Sometimes you gotta catch a break as well. So he's playing good, and then when he's playing bad, he's still catching breaks too. So that's I'm not mad about
between the both of them though. They did such a good job of staying in the pocket and taking the hit and just throwing it. Like,
oh yeah,
I know Stidham had a hit and ended up getting almost he almost got picked off. No, it hit the ground, so it didn't get picked off.
It's right, yeah,
it almost did. But they both stood in the pocket for the last second and threw it at the last second and got pretty good results out of it. So I would say from both quarterbacks' perspectives, I was kind of thoroughly impressed. Stidham has not earned his name, so his name is Jason Statham until I can give him a real name.
They call him
Purdy
Stiddy.
Looked great. Yeah,
they call him Stiddy for short.
Some people are saying Stidham, like he is the guy, already. So it's a little early.
No, he looked great.
He had a good game, and it was unexpected because the Niners were the top defense coming into that game, and I don't know if they still are or not. I don't particularly give a shit.
To be fair, you guys are top three defenses. From me doing my stats with the Eagles, you guys are top three.
Yeah, we're still top three.
I would say on the impression meter, Brock Purdy continues to impress, but it was against it's a record breaking for all the wrong reasons defense. But Purdy still looked amazing. He's executing.
Who had a really good game for the Niners was
Vince, real quick. Stidham looked amazing against a really great defense. And I think that's what really stands out is the 49ers defense. And everybody was like, oh my God, you're starting Stidham, his first NFL start against the 49ers defense, coming in, fighting for position in the playoff race. And he did his job. So that was very impressive. What did you have, Vince?
Mike McGlinchey actually had a really good game against Max Crosby. Max Crosby his name wasn't really called hardly at all the entire game. So for a guy that you're hoping, Mike McGlinchey finally showing up this year, and he's actually, showed out. And we actually just got an update. It sounds like this game, this game is just suspended.
About a minute ago, Tom Pelissero, insider for the NFL, has said that the game between the Bengals and the Bills has been suspended. It will not be resumed tonight, but there is no notion of whether or not the game is forfeited or will be picked up at a different date. So that game is officially called right now. We'll find out as soon as I get updates if that game's going to be played at a later time.
Yeah, so that was the right decision. There's no way in hell if I was a player on that field. If me as a fan, I don't want to see, I wouldn't want this game to conclude until I knew for sure that Hamlin was okay. And we don't know that at this point. And there's no point in making us wait around for another hour or so, because this game was temporarily suspended for about an hour now at this point. And I wouldn't want to continue it anyway. So I'm glad that they finally suspended it.
We'll fill in where we can. Let's get back here on track here. I do want your thoughts, Vince, on what you saw collectively as your team defensively, and then also what you saw from Purdy offensively. But let's start defensively. Do you think with the Raiders being, a team that lets up points or, gives up, do you think the Raiders exposed certain things of the 49ers defense?
I don't know if they necessarily exposed things. I think part of it was the Niners maybe came in taking the foot off the gas a little bit. And then Stidham took that opportunity and fucking ran with it. So it's a good wake up call to make sure that the Niners stay focused and they stay locked in, because that defense was playing like shit the whole game, but they still ended up coming away with the win. So honestly, for me, that's best case scenario. You get your ass kicked, but you still win. So you don't hurt yourself in the standings, but you get that wake up call. And God help the Arizona Cardinals next week, because I think they might be a shutout to this coming week. Because
they're going
to be locked in going into the playoffs now that you had a wake up call.
Well, they always say film tape is always better to watch when you win, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your thoughts on
True.
Purdy, though? Do you think Purdy stepped up when moments were needed?
He absolutely stepped up when moments were needed. He doesn't get the happy feet. He's like we talked about happy feet with Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy's still a little bit weary of taking hits, and there's good reason for that, because every time, he not every time, but he gets hit often enough that he gets injured, and
Right.
Brock Purdy's not afraid of getting hit at this point in his career. So he's standing strong in the pocket and is delivering balls, knowing that he's about to get his shit rocked, and he still does it. And and he looks good most of the time so far. And I tell you what, it's something about this system that Kyle Shanahan has, where, I mean, he got Matt Ryan to be an MVP in this league, in this system. He has seen fucking CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins look like competent quarterbacks in this system. I mean, they weren't getting wins, but they were at least looking fairly decent enough to get money from other teams. So, I part of this is the system, but the other part of it is he's playing well in the system. And so as long as he keeps doing that, we're going to keep having discussions about him. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this shakes out in the playoffs.
Is he your starting quarterback if they make it into, I don't know, past the first round? For next year.
Oh, for next year.
Is he your starting quarterback? And Lance has to earn it.
I'm going to say that Lance is going to be the first one on the depth chart starting in OTAs. But Brock Purdy will be given every opportunity to steal that number one spot from him. I look at it similarly to, oddly enough, another Kyle Shanahan coached system when Robert Griffin III and Kirk Cousins were in the same system at the same time. Kirk Cousins ended up taking the job away from Robert Griffin III, who was the mobile quarterback, who was the highly drafted quarterback. And, we were talking about a later rounds guy overtaking and becoming the man. So we'll see what happens. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen this time by any means,
sure,
but he's shown in the past that he's willing to go with another quarterback if another quarterback is playing better. So sure, we'll see what happens. I would not be surprised if Brock Purdy takes the job, but you have to be sure that it will not be Trey Lance's job going forward first. Like, Trey Lance is going to have every opportunity to keep his starting job, but also Brock Purdy is, like that leash is short once the season starts, I think.
Well, I want to talk about some other kids that are stepping up, but I want to get your last thoughts here. So, Sam, for you, for the Raiders, I mean, what are your expectations for next week and going into the off season? Like, what are you looking forward to?
Just compete, just compete offensively. Maybe try to have you haven't had any good defensive games, so maybe you have a decent defensive game. I would like to see the young guys continue to show out. It would be great to see. I would love to have we know Derek Carr's not coming back. So I would love to see, Stidham ball out and, see what that is.
Well, Vince, I know you're going to give me playoff updates here shortly, but what are your week 18 hopes that maybe some people don't play? What are you looking forward to?
Well, CMC does have a minor ankle injury. I don't want him seeing a blade of grass this game. Get him right for the playoffs. The Niners running back system is more than capable of handling a game without CMC, especially, when you already have at least a top 3 seed sewn up and you're going against the Arizona Cardinals, who are about to fire Cliff Kingsbury. So
see, that's what bothers me is with my Eagles, is that if we would have taken care of business this week or last week, I would have been in the same boat as you. But unfortunately, I got to play my starting quarterback because I need that first round bye. We need it. We need people to up. So what's the playoff scenario?
Okay, so AFC, let's start with that. The Chiefs, Bills, Bengals, they're all clinched. Chargers clinched a spot. Ravens have clinched a spot. And then the last wild card spot is coming down to the Patriots, Dolphins, and Steelers. So those are your 3 teams fighting for that last spot. Right now, the Patriots have it. We'll see what happens going forward. In the NFC,
well, Dolphins are interesting because Tua's still under the concussion thing. He may not play. And then also, I forget the other backup quarterback's name. He has
Teddy
a dislocated
Bridgewater.
pinky.
Yep.
Yeah, he has dislocated pinky. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, totally. NFC, Eagles, Niners, Vikings, Buccaneers. Those are your division leaders right now. Eagles have still not yet clinched the NFC East yet. The other ones have, but they do have a playoff spot, obviously. Cowboys, Giants have all clinched wild card spots. The Seahawks, Lions, and Packers are still fighting for that last playoff spot. If the winner of the Lions and Packers will get that spot, unless it's a tie. If it's a tie and Seattle wins, that's when Seattle gets it, even though Seattle currently has the spot because of conference record. Because Lions and Packers are both 6-5 in the conference right now. Seahawks are 5-6. So if Seahawks win, they could be at best 6-6 in the conference, whereas the winner of that would be 7-5 between the Lions and Packers game. So gotcha. Honestly, like the winner of that game is probably going to be your 7th seed, unless really weird shit happens, as far as I can tell. Yeah.
Well, hey, so the 49ers and the Raiders played the kids, and the kids showed up. The Warriors played their kids because of injuries that are happening right now, and they have all showed up. So, Vince, what has been the week of staying at home for the Warriors? It seems to be the place of hell for any team coming to visit.
Oh, yeah. So the Warriors got a win against Charlotte, 110-105. They got a win against Utah, 112-107. And they got a win against Portland, 118-112. They're currently 19-18. They're back up to 8th in the West. And they're playing the Hawks tonight, I guess, as we're recording, right?
Yeah, so they're playing right now. I haven't watched it. I'm still watching some NFL stuff, but yeah, the kids look good. Tonight should be the game that if the Warriors lose a game on their home court, this would be the one. There's no Curry, there's no Jermichael Green, there's no Wiseman, there's no Kuminga, there's no Wiggins. So you're probably going to see a lot of Moody and peanut butter jelly. For those who don't know, Patrick Baldwin Jr., the Warriors' second pick out of the second round there. So should be interesting, should be fun. I'm currently excited to watch Warriors basketball, especially when they're home. When they're on the road, I pray because they suck. I don't know what it is, man. They just suck. So I wanted to ask Sam here. We keep going back and forth on this here. What are your thoughts on the Wiseman? I know he's hurt. He didn't get to play the last game. He won't play this game either, but is he going to, are you still down that road that he's not up to your expectations anymore?
He's absolutely not up to my expectations. I know he missed his rookie year. I mean, look, I've defended this dude pretty much since he got into the league. I just think the things that he showed flashes in as a rookie don't even look the same. He looks like he got worse. Like he looks like he regressed. You know, he still can't set a screen. He's not rebounding. You know, he's not even, I know he had the big game a couple nights ago. But on a consistent basis, he just doesn't, like, he's not doing those things. He's not rebounding. He's not altering shots.
I'm not going to come down that road because you and I have flip-flop here. I think he's getting used to the Warriors system, and it is a very hard system for centers to play. I mean, look how long it took Looney to adapt into this system. You know, it's the way that the Warriors use centers is defense on a string, you know, and I think you got to understand that Draymond's there, or, you know, Clay's there, or Wiggins is there, and you don't have to do it all by yourself. And I think Wiseman's learning that, but there's a lot of growing pains. I mean, the kid's played 45 basketball games since he, you know, graduated from college. So not even graduated from college, since he got drafted out of Memphis. He only played 1 year there. But I still think, in my opinion, you're not trading anyone. You're not trading Moody. You're definitely not trading Kuminga. I mean, his stock value has gone way up. You're not trading him. And I also think you got to give Wiseman time. I think the kid's 20 years old. He's learning how to play pro basketball at a high level with arguably one of the best defensive teams that has been ever assembled, outside of maybe like the Pistons. So I'm not ready to jump down that road yet. It's just not me. But I do say that, like, at the end of the season, if I don't see a development growth, then I might be joining you on that wagon. But I'm going to give him to the end of the season here. My only concern with him is he's very injury prone. The knee, the shoulder, the hand, the ankle. That's very, when you're a big guy and you're injury prone, like Todd Gurley said, your best ability is your availability. So if you're not on the court, you ain't helping the team.
Yeah, I would meet you there halfway. Defensively, he should be a lot better, and rebounding, he should be a lot better. That's just, I mean, offensively, okay, it's hard. It's a little bit different being the 5 in the Warriors system than it is maybe a majority of the league. So offensively, I see you there. Defensively, he's just as bad.
My argument to that
that's
too,
where I get nervous, is that he's not getting better at the things that he was good at.
My argument to that too is that when Kuminga got out there in the beginning, he looked terrible. He looked abysmal. He looked like he didn't know what he was doing. And then he got more PT and more PT. For those who don't know, PT is playtime. And as he got more playtime, he started looking better. Now we're looking at Kuminga like, oh my God, he took Moody. We thought Moody was the best one. Now Kuminga's looking like the best one, and Moody's not getting any playtime. So I think that's also going to come into his repetitions. And, you'll start to see him to understand his personnel, who he's with. And I think it's going to come around. And if it doesn't, then I'm more than willing to, put the eggs on my face here and eat it here. So
do it now.
Not going to do it now. Not going to do it now.
Make them scrambled. They taste better.
Won't do it now. Unless the Warriors tank, then I'll take a French omelet in the way of Victor Wembanyama. So just saying.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and the injuries are just
the injuries that kill me.
It's stacking up, So yeah. I don't know if all these injuries are just Klay Thompson is coming off of major injuries, so he's working his way back. Maybe is it, he's not, maybe there's that thing in the back of his mind that he can't go full speed or go max effort because he's worried something's going to happen, or
no, he's looking good. The last 4 games, Klay's looking good.
No. I'm sorry. I'm saying maybe. I'm sorry. I'm saying early on in the season, Klay was working off that rust.
Sure.
And now that Wiseman, maybe he's working through some rust, and maybe in the back of his mind, there's something fearful about getting hurt. And when you're playing tight, you're going to get hurt. When you're playing cautious, you're going to get hurt. And maybe he's just kind of in this, because I mean, I know a lot of people give him heat for this about the, you make a bad play and you just got the slouch shoulders and the gee willikers, I messed up, so I don't know. I'm starting to get concerned about things of that nature, that he's not growing in the areas where he can grow off the court, so I'm hoping I'm wrong. I want to see him excel. He's a wonderful talent. I'm sure he's a great guy, personally. I'm sure he's, a good dude. What is he, 19, 20?
He's 20.
Getting paid, work, trying to figure all this out. It's a lot of pressure on the young dude mentally. So I'm not trying to come down his road and put him down and say, oh, he needs to be tougher. I'm not trying to be Skip Bayless over here, but I want him to be good. It's just, at what point do you pull the plug on somebody who just can't be available?
Well, Looney had a lot of hip problems, knee problems. They didn't pull the plug on him. I think the Warriors are going to be very patient with their big man, knowing that they've done this once or twice. I mean, JaVale McGee had asthma. Boogie had knee problems. Andrew Bogut had a broken elbow. So I think the Warriors are patient with their big men. I think they'll give him a longer leash, especially being so young compared to the guys that I just listed. But I also too want to talk about another injury update here, unless Vince got some Warrior insight he wants to give us. Another injury update here. We want to point out two things. Carlos Correa is still a Met, so that's one thing, even though he had that terrible knee situation going on here. Secondly, I do want to point out that Hamlin is currently in critical condition. No status update of that's a positive or negative thing at this point, but he is currently at the hospital. No word of him being stabilized or anything of that nature. So, but getting into the MLB hot stove here, Vinny, you got we got a short list this week. It was so much longer last week.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's because a lot of these dominoes have already fallen. So we'll just run through these real quick. Nathan Eovaldi is going to Texas for 2 years, $34 million. And that's obviously they're trying to solidify that starters rotation there. The Braves, they traded for Sean Murphy earlier. We told you about that. They then extended him 6 years, $73 million.
When you hear that, it's like you don't. The A's don't have 6 years, $75 million.
Yeah, they
like,
absolutely
come on.
did. You motherfucker, John Fisher. Okay,
like
moving on. No, I can't. All right. Tommy LaStella was DFA'd by the Giants. Hey, look at that. Another former A's player that might end up right back here. And that's a guy that you don't have to pay because the Giants are paying him. So maybe they try to grab Tommy LaStella and do their little fucking magic like that to try to make
it would work with Tommy LaStella because I think he still has a house in Pleasanton.
Yeah, exactly. He's still local. He wouldn't have to move. Evan Longoria signed with Arizona, 1 year, $4 million. Corey Kluber to Boston, 1 year for $10 million. And Rich Hill to Pittsburgh, 1 year.
How old is Rich Hill? He's got to be 55.
He's 43. He's not 55. No, he's not quite that old.
He was like 40 when the A's signed him.
Yeah, he was like 38. But yeah, so I checked. He's 43. And then the last note that I have is we talked about it. We just said it in passing last week. Trevor Bauer is reinstated. His suspension is being reduced to 194 games. The Dodgers still have a few days to decide whether they're going to cut him or guarantee his salary or whatever.
So we did say that we were going to touch more into that. That was kind of a big piece. I know that we collectively haven't talked about it, but I did do some digging and do some research, and it seems vehemently through the whole entire clubhouse that they do not want Trevor Bauer back as players. They just don't vibe with him. So he's as good as gone.
Yeah.
I guess I have a question to you guys. Do you think he's going to get another chance?
I think at some point he will. I think at some point he will get another chance. Because
you think he'll go back to Cleveland?
I don't know, man.
Okay, I'm making this connection because of a certain quarterback in Cleveland.
Right, yeah. Another podcast calls him Lord Voldemort. He who must not be named. I'm gonna name him because I'm not scared. It's Deshaun Watson is who we're talking about. Who's just not a stand-up human being. Moving like Trevor Bauer is not really a stand-up human being. He's had problems with a lot of people even before these allegations and all of this bad stuff came out. So he's a cancer to the locker room. And I know that some owner is still going to see the talent. He's going to have some, workouts, and he's going to end up getting a contract somewhere because that's how this fucking works. I think
it's true. I mean, you think he's going to go somewhere, Sam?
I think maybe June or something is when he'll have a new team.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to wait a little while. But I think somebody will give him a chance.
That's unfortunate. I mean, okay, to be fair, we're saying he's a POS, but he hasn't been charged with anything. It's all accusations at this point. So I do want to go out and be, I guess, a devil's advocate. Right.
Let's cover our asses a little bit for sure.
Yeah,
but what he's accused of, was not cool at all. And and
you guys are referencing
we don't need to,
like the girl that's
where
claiming that
he beat her up. There's a few of them.
There's one girl that
one
he
girl.
beat up. There's 4 other girls that have said that when he was in different cities, that he sexually assaulted them as well. And I don't think there was a rape allegation, but they're all sexual assaults.
They're like, it's like it started consensual, and then it crossed a line, is what is a lot of these situations ended up being. So that's where this is falling at this point. So I don't want to continue on this any more than I have to, because he's a bad man, and we can.
What do you think he's going to go to Boston? Boston needs players.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to dare to predict which team it will be, but it will be a scumbag owner of some kind who is actually willing to pay people, though. So it won't be our scumbag owner. It will not be the A's, because he's too rich. He's too expensive.
I guess that's the positive of being an A's fan.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to sign any bad human beings because we're not going to sign anybody. So,
well, that's not true, because we had Sky Bolt, and he was a terrible human being.
Yeah, well, I mean, we drafted him. We didn't like sign him in free agency, though. So
that's true.
Let him work through the system, and then anywho.
Well, the reason why I bring up Boston is because I want you to take lead here. There was a hockey game that got played at the most randomest time, and it was played where?
It was played at Fenway Park. Boston Bruins and the Pittsburgh Penguins played in the NHL Winter Classic. They played earlier today, Pacific time. It was about 11 a.m. was puck drop, and Boston scored that game-winning goal like right near the end. So that was pretty exciting for the home fans. We're bringing this up in particular because of the way the Bruins showed up to the stadium, and they came rolling up deep. Go ahead, Tyler, take it away.
Yeah, I watched the video. They got off the bus, and they all were in Red Sox uniforms, which was cool. But the funny thing about it was that they were all vintage Red Sox uniforms, and they all had vintage baseball gloves. They weren't like your traditional gloves you see nowadays. So I'm like, how did you get that many vintage baseball gloves for a whole entire team?
I mean, they got somebody in costuming uniform, so somebody from Broadway came up and just came up the road and made costumes for them, I'm sure. And they all looked, pretty well fitted. So I'm sure they got their measurements and everything done to make them look right. And then they just had to, source some old school mitts and some old school bats to look the part. And it was kind of fun to watch them come into the stadium like that. That was fun.
Well, 2 other cool things happened too that I thought would be worth mentioning too, was that they did a live band version of Caroline, which that's a classic Red Sox thing, which I know Sam has been
Sweet
there.
Caroline. Sweet Caroline.
Yeah,
Sweet Caroline.
Sam's been there, got to witness it. I mean, yeah, it's fun, right? It's great.
It was great.
The fan gets involved, you get involved.
Boston was great.
Time. Yeah.
It was a great time because the A's whooped their ass that day. And I was in all my A's gear. That was when the last season we were able to travel and all that
Uh-huh.
before the vid. That was 2019, I think.
No, I thought you went in 2018, and then because we went to Chicago in 2019.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that'd be right.
The second cool thing that happened too was the GOAT Wayne Gretzky got to sign the pesky pole there out there. So that was pretty cool. I don't know if they ever had a hockey player sign their pole, so I thought that was kind of interesting as well too. So,
if they did, it would have been more like Bobby Orr or somebody like that.
Probably around
some
there.
Classic Bruins old school player like that. While we're on hockey, let's just talk about the Sharks real quick. The last week they kind of had a bit of a rough one. They lost at Vancouver 6-2. They came home and lost in overtime to Philly 4-3. And then they go out to Dallas, lose 5-2. They go up to Chicago and get a win 5-2 on Sunday. In that game, that was Marc-Edouard Vlasic's 1200th career game. All of them have been with the Sharks, and he actually scored his first goal of the season to make it 2-2. It was I actually happened to be watching the game at this point, and it was a redirect off of his skate that they initially called no goal because they were saying it was a kicking motion. they went to replay, they reviewed, it was more of him just kind of redirecting and trying to stop. So it wasn't a kicking motion. He just happened to be going forward and angled his skate, and it bounced off the skate and in. So good on you, Pickles. 1,200 games, that's pretty impressive, even if the last 300 of them haven't been that great.
I was going to ask you this: what's more impressive, that Pickles has played that many games, or the fact that he's been with an NHL team for that many games?
Honestly, like once he signed that contract, I knew he wasn't going anywhere. So getting to 1,200 games is more impressive to me, period. Because it's a feat that not a lot of people get to do. And he was like earlier in his career, he was one of the top defensive defensemen. I know it's a weird thing to say, but in hockey, they talk about offensive defensemen and defensive minded defensemen. So
Sure.
yeah, he was he got a gold medal playing for Canada in the Olympics. Like, he was a top-notch defenseman for quite a while. So and he's not that anymore.
I mean,
I'm not
let's
gonna
be fair. I mean, Canada's team is like it's like the Argentinian France team of hockey.
Yeah, no, I mean, he was the top defenseman on the top team, like one of the top defensive-minded defensemen in all of hockey. And I mean, he did it on some of the biggest stages. He got to play in a Stanley Cup final. He's got a gold medal, like I said, playing in the Olympics. So good on him. I actually do have a Pickles jersey. I got it right around the time he signed his contract extension, thinking, oh, this is good times, they'll last forever. And I mean, obviously he hasn't played as well.
Well, do you have the standings up for me?
They are currently 12, 20, and 7.
I need a duck hunt.
They are 7th in the Pacific. They're still ahead of the Ducks. Bang, bang, quack, quack, motherfucker. All right. Okay. So just a couple of last notes here. I wanted to talk about the Georgia-Ohio State game and specifically how it ended. Okay. So Ohio State is lining up to kick a game-winning field goal, and the clock is approaching midnight on New Year's Eve. So it's actually timed up almost perfectly to where they kick the ball, and he just absolutely shankopotamus, and the ball hits well wide left of the field goal post. And right when the ball hits is when it was 0 and it was New Year. So that's quite a way for Ohio State to ring in the new year by losing a bowl game and a chance at a national title. Yeah.
Can you imagine if it went in though? That would have been the greatest.
Oh, yeah. If it goes in, people in Ohio are still jizzing themselves like 3 days later, man. So
it's always better if it goes in.
Yeah, it's always better if it goes in. Absolutely. Dynamite drop in, Tim. That was perfect. Yeah. Okay. I'm off the rails here. Okay, so the NFL Sunday Ticket is heading to YouTube TV.
I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, you guys are fans of teams that are out of market, so you'll get to actually, pay your little fee, but then you'll be able to watch your team every week, which is great for you guys.
To be fair, mine was always out of market. Sam's just decided to
a
follow
couple
his
years
last
ago
name and go to Vegas.
Yeah, they went and sank their boat ship in a desert.
Yeah.
Not a lot of the irony.
Not a lot of rivers running through Las Vegas, I'll tell you that. Then we do have one more note on soccer. Pele, one of the GOATs, he died on Thursday at 82 years old.
3-time World Cup champion.
That's right. He's the only player to ever do that. And Pele is an absolute legend. He helped grow the game in America. He signed with the New York Cosmos in the 70s, and that helped build the soccer league at that time. That league ended up folding, but it's like he was instrumental in building soccer across the world, and especially here in America. So he's definitely
one of my. I have a favorite Pele story of mine. Mine is where Pele got to be the honorary checkered flag for Formula One. and Pele was talking, because Pele was always a very sociable person. He was talking and didn't realize that first place was going to cross. And it wasn't until sixth place came across that he decided to wave the checkered flag, and he apologized to everyone there. So yeah, it was just fun little Pele story. On Wrexham, since we've got it here, I just want to point it out that Wrexham won their last match 2-1. They are currently 2 points behind Notts County. Again, this is going all the way until like April, so we got plenty of time on this one here. And then the next match, January 7th, is the FA Cup match. So it's a big game. They are playing against a championship league team in the Coventry. Coventry, I think, is in like 5th or 6th in the championship league. So, which is a step below the Premier League.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say Wrexham plays in like the 5th level of professional soccer in England. They're playing a team from the 2nd level this coming game that you're talking about. So it's a team that like if you look at it on paper, it'll be a lot of fun because Wrexham is a top team in their league, but you're also talking about just a team from a league that's 3 levels above yours. So it's going to be tough.
What do we compare it as? We compared it as like the Sacramento Kings playing against, although the Kings have been good lately, so maybe we'll call them the Lakers. The Lakers playing against, I don't know, like a top college basketball team, right? That's kind of what it's like.
I would say like a Division II college basketball team, like a upper end college Division level 2 college basketball team playing the Lakers, is probably the maybe I would even go a little worse than the Lakers, but still, like that's kind of what we're talking about here. Like, I would expect that Wrexham is probably not the favorite in this game, but
no, they're not. See. And I think the interesting part about it is that Wrexham has to go to Coventry and go play it against them. So that's kind of tough. What's interesting though, is that Coventry, their owners like are bankrupt and they can't afford the pitch that they're playing on. So I'm not really sure if the game is going to be played on Coventry's pitch or if it's going to be played on a neutral pitch. I'll have to look into that and I'll get back to you. But that was the big news, is that their owners went bankrupt and they couldn't even afford the pitch that they were playing on. So the game was like in loop of whether it was going to actually happen or not. But I'll let you guys know about that.
All right. Do we have any other extra points, gentlemen?
I got 2 things before we close.
Okay.
It was my sister's birthday on New Year's Eve. So I just want to shout out my older sister on her birthday on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. Sorry. And then the other thing is, I know I keep harping on it, coming back to this Derek Carr thing and how important it is. And I really just want to emphasize how important it is over the last 9 years. My nephew is a big Raider fan. I'll call him, I'm not going to say his real name on air, so I'll just say AJ. He's been over the past 9 years the biggest Derek Carr fan, and even before Derek Carr was a Raider, AJ was a big fan of Derek Carr when he was over at Fresno State, where my nephew lives. So he was a huge fan of Derek Carr and Devontae Adams, and he was one of the fanboys that always had this dream that they would reunite. So before the game against the 49ers, I was texting my nephew. I said, hey, what are your thoughts on Derek Carr and the Raiders? I would love to hear your thoughts and share on air if that's okay. And he goes, it's disappointing for sure, but it's time. It's probably best for both parties. I've always been a big fan of Derek Carr's, and I think he's pretty good quarterback, but there's definitely a threshold he seemingly can't get over. He can more than likely find more success and stability somewhere else. A big part of that is the organization as well. Drama, coaching carousels. McDaniels is on my shit list with boneheaded play calling and bad situational football, but maybe we give him 2 more years and get some personnel that he likes on the team that sees what happens. I could just go on and on for hours about the Raiders and their continuous mediocrity. But to summarize, yeah, this kind of hurts. Me and all my friends that grew up in Fresno have extra admiration for Derek Carr because of the whole Fresno State thing. Same with Devontae Adams. Jumped for joy in the offseason when we picked him up. I said, wow, man, any final thoughts about that, about the Raiders? And he went on to talk about the defense real quick. Patrick Graham and this damn defense are an embarrassment. Crosby and Denzel Perryman are the only two consistent tone centers. Jones had his 3 good games this year and was pretty much invisible the rest of the season. The secondary is literally the worst in football. Rarely any turnovers. The base zone defense, bend but don't break stuff, doesn't work in the NFL. Also, why do we always bail on the run in the second half of games, or constantly get caught in a cycle of run twice, then either screen pass or do some cutesy gadget play, then punt? This team is just predictable. McDaniel's not allowing to call input on plays and do audibles is bizarre too, which is true. Derek Carr doesn't really do many audibles. All I can hope for, in short, is that I'm being short-sighted and the organization is playing the long game. Maybe they're weeding out all of the Gruden, Mayak personnel to establish a new system. To me, the only Raiders that should return is Crosby and Jacobs, and Adams should be unmovable. So that's kind of it, but that's the end of his comments that he wanted to share on there. But to me, it's just, he was born in 96.
I was going to say, like, I met him,
Wow.
like I remember meeting him. He was like 10 years old or something like that. And, yeah, he's,
so you get what huge, he was born in, if you're a big fan and you're born in 96, the Super Bowl is so long ago and you got blown out. So that's not really a positive memory. Your only positive memory is Derek Carr. He's been the only stable thing in what has been a terribly misrun, mismanaged, poorly operated football franchise, and this is not just Mark Davis. Unfortunately, this is Al Davis, but this is kind of like what's happening to the Raiders. Is your young fans they're losing interest. The one thing that has been good for your franchise, you're being disrespectful about it. So I think there are a lot of fans that are upset. I'm in agreement with AJ about McDaniels. So hopefully there's just personnel things. We want the best for the franchise because we just want to be fans. But I just thought that was kind of interesting coming from somebody who listens to the podcast and wants to interact with about the Raiders, getting that fan feedback directly, that passion, the heartbreak. I told him I would read it on there, and I think he would enjoy that. But also, I see it on Raiders Reddit, Raiders Twitter. There's a lot of people who were not the biggest fans of Derek Carr because we talk about the fumbles. We talked about that many times. It's not to say that he's been perfect, but he has been the one bright spot, and I think he deserved a little bit more respect while being shown the door.
That's fair. Again, I also want to let people know too that no updates currently on Hamlin at this time. If
all we have is he's in critical condition and he's at the hospital. That's all we have at this moment.
I'm sure there's plenty of reporters out there who will give you updates, but if I find any, I'll retweet some of it as well. Sam, I do want to say that your nephew, that's pretty impressive. I will say from a younger kid who grew up watching. He didn't even get to watch the play. He watched one playoff, right? But he didn't get to watch any Super Bowls or anything like that. So I think that's an impressive outlook and take on something like that. So, but yeah, Vince, what you got us? You rolling us out?
I think that's it. Just make sure to interact with us Sam literally read a conversation with his nephew. We are more than happy to interact with all of you. Please reach out. SVT Sports Pod at gmail.com, SVT Sports Pod on Instagram and Twitter. We really look forward to interacting with you, sliding into our DMs. And that's all that we got for now, I guess.
That's all, folks.
Auf Wiedersehen.